right, hello everybody. We have a special guest here. We have Steve Heavy Haltom, owner operator of Axis Power Crafts. You can check it out, axispowercrafts.com. They've got an amazing message board on all things crafts, craft strategy, betting strategy, throwing strategies. And we have done craps cruises together. We're on number 4 this October. So we've gotten a lot of times to hang out together and talk craps, and I'm excited to talk craps with you right now.
Looking forward to it.
So I know we've swapped emails in anticipation of our October Craps Cruise 4, which everybody, if you haven't, there's still spots available, so book it if you're interested. But you have had the chance since the reopening of casinos across the country to play some craps in different jurisdictions. So tell us about where have you been so far since the reopening?
Well, I played my local casinos over in Shreveport, Bossier City. So as you know, you and I are almost neighbors. We're just down the road from each other here in Texas. So I get over to Shreveport, Bossier occasionally just to hang out with some friends and play the local casinos, keep in touch with what's going on. And I had a seminar in Las Vegas the early part of June. So I spent 6 days in Las Vegas. And then the latter part of June, I had a seminar up in Kansas City. So I spent 5 days in Kansas City. So I had an opportunity to play mostly the casino in Shreveport. Bossier was over at the Horseshoe, primary place I played. Then in Las Vegas, I stayed at the Flamingo, which was the primary property that was open with Caesars. It was just Caesars Palace and the Flamingo were the only 2 properties open with Caesars. So I played there, and I played off-strip properties as well. I played the Gold Coast, the Palace Station, then we played up at M Resorts, which is one of the casinos that URComped has a deal with, where you can host players up there. And it is one of my favorite places to play in Las Vegas, by the way. And then we went to the downtown casinos and we hit some of the old standards. The Golden Nugget was our favorite place to play down there, but we also hit the Fremont and a couple of the other places down there that we won't go into. But the Fremont and the Golden Nugget were the 2 places that we played at predominantly down there. And all in all, we had a great time. My first experience with post-COVID-19 play was over in Bossier City. And I got to tell you, I didn't stay very long. The casino was not crowded. They did a temperature check when I walked into the casino, make sure I didn't have a fever, ask if I'd, had any symptoms or anything like that. And other than that, there was no line, no problems getting in the door, just get right on in. Walked in, and some players were wearing masks, some were not. But that was my tune-up for getting ready for the full experience in Las Vegas a couple of weeks later. When I got to Las Vegas, it was that times 100. My seminar in Vegas was the first week after the casinos opened up. So they had 1 weekend that they were open. And then this was the following weekend. And this was the weekend that everyone really came out to the casinos. And honest to God, it was madness. I mean, the place was slammed. It was covered up. They'd sold out Caesars Palace. They'd sold out the Flamingo. And they were looking at the possibility of opening up another property just to handle the overflow crowd because they had so many people wanting to come to Vegas. As far as table games are concerned, by and large, most of the casinos seem to be doing a pretty good job. The MGM properties have installed plexiglass, I can't say that word, shields between the players. So you're like sitting in your little box in front of the dealer. At blackjack, for example, you don't touch the cards. They just set the cards out in front of you on their side of the shield, and you just point to the card that you want to hit. You point to them. If you don't, you wave them off. But you never actually touch the cards anymore.
That almost sounds like the automated games, right? The
It's
where it's just a
very,
bingo dealer.
you can see that coming. Honestly, when you look at that, you can say, yeah, this is just one step away in a lot of cases. The thing you miss in there is the human interaction that draws customers in. I mean, you have your favorite dealers when you go to the craps game. If you're a regular at a casino, I go play on certain dealer shifts because I like these guys. So
And I just to stay on that for a minute, I totally agree. Because I mean, you start going down that path of automating everything, then it's all right. Well, why am I going to the casino in the first place? I could probably play an app on my phone that,
right,
what's the difference? And
yeah,
so it is a very slippery slope to have casinos just look to automate more and more and more because, I mean, it's almost like the going to a football game. It's become such a, just to make another analogy, it's like when I think about, I live in Dallas. I'm a 49ers fan, but Cowboys are a close team. If I want to go to the Cowboys game, it's just such a burden and there's so much that goes into actually getting there. It's so expensive. And it's like, the experience of watching on my TV
mhm,
is as good or better. And the beer's cheaper and everything. Like, I'll
yeah,
go sit and watch it. And if the casinos try to automate too much, it's like, if I can gamble from my phone, why do I need to get in my car and drive 45 minutes or an hour or fly to
yep,
Vegas? So I'm just echoing and agreeing with you that
yeah.
human interaction is key to survival, long-term survival of these casinos.
I was surprised to find that the off-strip casinos looked like they had done a better job of cleaning up than the strip casinos had. In particular, Gold Coast, that place pretty much sparkled when we went in there. Uh, Even cleaner was Palace Station. I was stunned at how clean that place is. Now, that's been remodeled within the last 5 or 6 years and had a big expansion, but that place looked great. We played several sessions in there and had a great time. So some of the casinos have done a good job, and both of those casinos were very careful to make sure at craps when a player left the game, a table games manager, box person, someone came around with a cloth and a spray bottle of antiseptic and came around and cleaned the table where that person was standing before they let anyone else buy in at that position. Not every casino on the strip was doing that. That was their rule. They were supposed to do that. And sometimes they did it. But in the heat of a game, when you had six players on a table and one of them walked and somebody else stepped up and balled in at that position, not every time did that position get wiped down like it was supposed to. And I saw that frequently on the strip property. So to players out there, I would say don't be so eager to get in the game that you jump up there before they wipe the spot down. If you see a spot open and you want to move into it, take your player's card out, walk up to the table and set your player's card down in the rack where you want to buy in, and then ask the box person if you can get someone to wipe that spot down before you buy in. They'll get the pit person, the floor person, someone will come around, spray that area with antiseptic and wipe it down. And you'll get to move in there without picking up the previous player's germs. But I'd be very cautious about that because you don't know who's got what walking around in today's COVID-19 world. So that's something I'd definitely watch for. Uh, Other than that, all in all, at the craps game, they're being very careful about. Often they'll keep two different sets of dice. They'll keep a set of red dice and a set of blue dice, or a set of red dice and green dice, different colored dice. And one player will get the red dice while they sanitize the blue dice. Then the next shooter gets the blue dice while they sanitize the red dice. And they swap out. Every other shooter gets different colored dice while they sanitize the other dice. So they keep the dice fresh all the time. Uh, some casinos only put one stick of dice, so there might be five dice on the table, but they only offer the shooter three dice at a time when it's his turn to shoot. They'll take the other two dice and hold them in reserve, and they keep them fresh and sanitized. So if a dice flies off the table, they've got 2 fresh dice that they can offer him a choice of one of those to replace the one that fell off the table. Then they can get the one that fell off the table and they can sanitize it while the game continues. But they want to make sure that they're always giving you a fresh die if one of the dice goes off the table, hits the floor. They don't want you to pick up that die and go right back into play with it in case it picks up some germs or a virus off the floor. So everything's being double safe.
Did they do anything with chips? The actual chips?
The chips I saw at the Flamingo before they opened the tables in the morning. They took a vinyl cloth and spread it on the table. And they took all the chips out of the bank and spread them out on that vinyl cloth, and they sprayed them down with an antiseptic, with a germicide, whatever. And then they wipe them down and they flip them all over and they spray them down on the other side and they wipe them off. Then they put them back in the rack. So they're washing the chips down on the table every morning before the shift. So that's happening once a day. That's something that did surprise me. I had wondered how they would do it. My thought was that they would do it with some sort of ultraviolet light or something, but they're actually washing them down with a spray antiseptic at the tables. So that was good to know.
So yeah, no, that's actually really interesting. So it sounds like they're doing some new precautions to clean the dice. They're cleaning the chips, and they're restricting the spots of the table from 12 to 6. Is that right?
Yeah, they have 6 positions at the table open, 3 on each end. You would think that this makes the game go quicker, right? Only 6 players. But every time there's a stick change, they spray down the position that the stick person was at with the antiseptic, clean it. They take the stick, here's the dice stick, they wipe it down with the antiseptic. So I've got a clean stick for the new guy coming in. They take the dice bowl, the little rubber bowl that the dice are in, they wipe it out with the antiseptic. Then each dealer position on each side of the table, because the dealers are rotating, they have to wipe out those positions. So they're basically wiping off everywhere a dealer person is standing at the table gets wiped down. So there's 3 positions that get wiped down with antiseptic. Then the puck, the little on and off puck that the dealers handle, that gets wiped down because the dealer touches it. So a different dealer's touching it every time when it rotates. So that whole process takes about 2 to 3 minutes every time there's a stick change. So here's a dice shooter over here. Guy's having a great hand. He's maybe 23, 24 numbers into a roll, and all of a sudden, stick change. Now, stick change to dice players has always been a negative. You know, all the energy leaves the game. Whew. You know, you hear the old timers, turn my bets off, you know, because it's the old superstition that the 7 follows a stick change. So now the game ends. It's for 3 minutes, nothing happens while everything gets wiped down, and you're just like, da, 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 da. So yeah, people are turning bets off like crazy, twiddling their thumbs, and it's crazy. And then the game continues after 3 minutes, and of course, what happens? The next toss, the guy throws a dice off the table, and the game stops for another 3 minutes while they change the dice and chase the dice and clean the dice and all this nonsense. I mean, you got to keep the dice on the table, folks. Don't throw them in the floor. It kills the game forever. And the stick changes will just wear you out. It's the truth. The sanitizing of everything at the table is bothersome, but it's necessary. The masks are bothersome, but if you see some of these people at the table, you'll be glad you're wearing a mask. It's strange that the casino seems to bring out some people that shouldn't be in the casino. I mean, let's be honest with this. You see a guy walk up to a $25 table and buy in for $27. And I saw this in Kansas City, and the guy buys in for $27 at a $25 minimum table. And I'm like, what in the heck is this guy going to do with $27 on a $25 table? There's only really, he can bet a pass line bet with no odds. He can bet a don't pass. He can bet a field bet or a come bet. He can place any number. He could not have a correct bet on the 6 or 8, but he could place it. What's he going to do? Well, he throws it in the field, and somebody throws a 2, and it pays him $50. Now he's got $75. Next thing I know, I look down there, and this guy's $27 is turned into $400. And I'm like, what in the world is this guy doing? And he keeps throwing out field bets, and this 400 turns into 800. And I'm like, yeah, he's not long for this world. And this guy gets up to about $1,200, and next thing I know, it's all gone. And he's got nothing left but that $2 out of that $27 buy-in. And he picks up his 2 $1 chips and walks away. So craps is an incredible game. It attracts people from all walks of life. You'll see a guy that walks up and buys in for $100,000 at a table next to a guy that buys in for $10. And they'll stand side by side, and they're both rooting for the same thing. All social barriers are gone. We're all high-fiving. We're all on the same side. We're all looking for the same thing. We're all trying to beat the house. There are few games in the world that are more unifying than this game. Heck, I think we ought to have it on every street corner in the planet, I think a good craps game would solve a lot of the world's problems, but it is what it is. I would just urge everyone when they're out in the casinos to be safe. I honestly think social distancing probably works better than the masks do. It's going to be hard to social distance in a lot of these casinos. I mentioned the $25 games, and I'll just throw this out there. One of the things you're going to have to learn to do in the casinos, if you're a table games player, is play at a higher limit game. Because they're only allowing 6 players on a table, in a craps table, in most of the casinos right now, the limits are about double what you were used to seeing. So if you're used to playing a $5 game, you're probably going to be facing a $10 game. If the casino you normally play at had $10 games, they're going to be offering $15 to $25 games. In Vegas, I arrived on a Thursday, and all the casinos were running $15 to $25 games on the strip. On Friday, you could find one $15 game, and all the rest of the games in the casino were $25. On Saturday, every game was $25 except the ones that were $50 or $100. So I'm telling you, if you can't play on the Las Vegas Strip, if you can't afford to play a $15 or $25 game, you're going to have to get off strip. Now, up at M Resort, we were able to play a $10 game. You get in to the off strip, the locals casinos, you can find $10 games. You get further off strip in the local casinos, at the right time of day, you'll find a $5 game. Midweek on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday morning, yeah, you can find a $5 game around. If you go to Winnemucca, you'll find a $5 game. If you go to Muckleshoot, if you know where that is, outside Seattle, you'll probably find a $5 game. There are $5 games out there. In Reno, Nevada, you'll find a $5 game. It depends on the part of the country you're in. In my neck of the woods, everything is a $10 game over in Shreveport Bossier, unless you find $15 and $25 games on the weekends. But you won't find anything in the terms of a $5 game over there anymore right now. So bear in mind, you're going to have to play at a higher level. That means you're going to have a different strategy. If you're used to playing a $5 game and walking up and playing 22 or 44 inside, you're going to have to learn to play this game differently. You know, I came up with a completely different strategy to play $25 games when in Vegas this last trip. And it was simply to start with a $30 6 and 8. This is a quick press move for you guys that are into craps. Start with $30 each on the 6 and 8. On the first hit, it's going to pay you $35. Tell them to make my 6 and 8 look like 42 each. You will get $11 change. First hit at 42 on either one of those will pay you 50 for one. You give them that $1 they just gave you back, they will give you $50. You now have $60 in your hand. Your original bet was $30 each on the 6 and 8. So you have two $42 bets up there at that point that are free and paid for. All you have to do is sit back and collect 50 for one on every hit you get after that. So it takes two hits on the 6 or 8, get both those bets paid for, and then the third hit gives you a profit of $49. Not everybody can throw 2 6s or 8s in a hand, but it happens more often than you think. And if you're a good shooter and you practice throwing 6 and 8s, you can do it. So, real simple strategy for hitting 6s and 8s and making a quick profit on that. That's how I played in Las Vegas.
That's a good tip for folks that are not typically playing at that a $25 or $50 game, but want to play. Yep. That's the recommended strategy.
That's one.
Got one more strategy, one more tip before we wrap up.
One more tip would be play the don'ts, because in this world with all these interruptions, a couple of things are going on here. The higher table limits have weeded out a lot of the low limit local players who are really good players. Okay, they're good shooters, but they have small bankrolls. They're just regular guys that go down every day and they go to the casino. They play these low limit games, and their idea is to win 100, 150 bucks a day, and that's their job. That's what they do. Well, they're out of work right now because they don't have the bankroll to do that job. So those guys are not playing anymore. Those were the guys that a lot of experienced players that had bigger bankrolls made money off of. So those guys are gone. What's left are a lot of people that have bigger bankrolls and think they are good shooters, but they're not. Okay. So you have them, and then you have on the weekends a lot of recreational gamblers who are there to party and play. Okay. So they're not really great gamblers. They're not good players. They just pick them up and fling them. They have no skill. So if you play the mathematical game with these players, your advantage is playing the don'ts. So in the post-COVID-19 world, I think in a market like Las Vegas, a don't player can do really well on the weekends. Not maybe so much midweek, because you have some better players out there that are the working guys that play the market regularly. Guys that are serious players, that are good players, that go to the casino to make money, don't play on the weekends. They play Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday mornings when the casinos are uncrowded. But yeah, there's big opportunities right now for don't players in Las Vegas. So keep that in mind.
This has been super interesting. Thank you for filling us in on what's going on around the country from what you've seen. And And as of today, July 7th, we've got, again, the cruise is still on, Craps Cruise 4. So hopefully we'll be sailing together in October. And anybody that's a craps player that hasn't taken part in a craps cruise, I highly encourage you guys to take part in this one. The deals are great, and you get to play with some high level craps players like Heavy.
And be looking out for an announcement soon for Craps Cruise 5 coming up in 2021.
That's right. That's right. And you do offer one edition on accesspowercrafts.com. There, you've got all kinds of information, but you do on these craps cruises offer private private lessons on swing, or I always say swing because it is like a golf swing. But how would you describe the seminars, the coaching?
Yeah, I do basically 2 sessions on the craps cruise. I do one dice control class, which basically teaches you the different dice sets that we use and the toss technique to gain an advantage over the game. And it is very much like a golf swing. So the parallels between a precision toss and a dice swing are pretty much spot on. So mentally, it's very much like a golf game. The second session I teach is a betting strategy class, which teaches you how to take advantage of any dominant numbers that you might develop through your advantage toss. If you are a good shooter and practice this game consistently, you'll find that you develop certain numbers, we call them signature numbers, that you'll toss in excess of what statistical norms are. For me, it's the 6 and the 10. So I go to the casino, I always bet the 6 and the 10. And I will throw more of those than I should, so I make a profit on those numbers. So I have specific betting strategies for those numbers. And so we teach you betting strategies to take advantage of that. That's the nuts and bolts of it. Of course, it's a little more complicated than that, but we do teach those 2 sessions on every cruise. And I have a third session on cruises that have 3 at-sea days. And on that third session, we just do kind of an open house thing. Come on down and we'll talk about whatever you want to and work on whatever you want to and just have fun with it. And we do this on one of the casino's tables. The casino lets us use one of their tables on the morning of the at-sea day from like 8:30 to 11:30. So we do it right there in the casino.
Well, wonderful. So I cannot wait to be there in October. I am optimistic it will happen. Right now it's September 15th is the start date, and our cruise goes over Halloween. So that's at least a month of wiggle room. So I'm optimistic, and I'm sure we'll talk again before then. So thank you so much, Steve.
All right. Thank you. Good to talk to you again.
Good talking to you.